Hello there, my sleep fellows. Tonight, we begin a quiet and curious journey, not through a thunderstorm of duels or the chaos of dark magic, but through soft footsteps, warm lamplight, and the gentle creak of old wood in the corner of a very familiar shop. Ollivander's, the place where every young witch and wizard begins their magical path. But this tale is not about buying a wand. Number, it's about something that shouldn't happen, something that almost never does. It's about a wand breaking, not in battle, not in anger, but as if something had quietly come undone from within. And this story is about finding out why. Our path will wind through hidden drawers, forgotten spell books, and memories that still hum in the wooden shelves. We'll meet someone who hears the language of wandwood and unicorn hair, someone who listens not to the spell, but to the silence left behind. As the story gently unfolds, we'll ask questions not with urgency, but with wonder. Who would try to undo Ollivander's craft? And why? There's no need to rush. The answers will come in time, whispered from places most have forgotten. All you need to do is follow the thread. The lanterns are already glowing. The dust has settled for the evening. And somewhere, just behind the old shop counter, a wand box lies open, its contents quiet, but waiting. If you enjoy stories wrapped in soft mystery, calming magic, and gentle wonder, you're always welcome here. Feel free to follow along or even tap that little bell if you'd like more peaceful tales like this one. No pressure at all, just warm magic at your pace. Now, find your quiet space, nestle in beneath your covers. Let the world slow, let your thoughts soften, and allow the quiet magic of Diagon Alley guide you, because tonight the wands are whispering, and one of them has a story to tell. On this particular day, the late afternoon sun dipped low over Diagon Alley, casting warm gold across the cobblestones. The shop signs swayed gently in the breeze, and most of the midday hustle had quieted into the soft clatter of shopkeepers tidying their displays. The familiar windows of Ollivander's, makers of fine wands since 382 BC, gleamed with a faint, enchanted polish, the kind that seemed to shine even when the skies were gray. Inside, the shop was quiet, but not empty. Luna Lovegood stood near the middle of the room, her pale eyes wide and dreamy as always, but attentive. Her fingers hovered just above a display wand made of ash and unicorn hair, though she didn't touch it. Instead, she listened, tilting her head ever so slightly, as if waiting to hear something only she could hear. Wands, she had once told Harry, sing when no one else is listening, and Luna always listened. Behind the counter stood Mr. Garrick Ollivander, now older than ever, though his silver eyes remained just as sharp. Since the war, he'd returned to his shop in quiet dignity. There was a gentleness to his motions now. He moved more slowly, as if taking care not to disturb the ancient magic still curled into the corners of his workshop. Most wands sleep peacefully once bonded, Ollivander said softly, not lifting his gaze from the wand box he was gently polishing. But this one has been restless. He opened the box, The wand inside was broken, not shattered, but splintered. A clean fracture near the base, the wood slightly twisted as if something had tugged at its core from within. The phoenix feather inside, usually smooth and vibrant, looked frayed, as though whispering a secret it hadn't yet dared to say aloud. Luna stepped closer. "May I?" Ollivander nodded. She lowered her face near the wand, not touching, simply breathing in. Her expression softened. "It's sad," she murmured, not angry, not frightened, just unraveling. At that moment, the front door opened with a soft chime. Neville Longbottom stepped in, brushing a few petals from his robes. He'd just come from tending to the rooftop garden he'd enchanted for his herbology students at Hogwarts. He looked surprised to find Luna there, and quietly pleased. "Afternoon," he said, voice as gentle as ever. "Did you get my owl?" "I did," she replied. "You said the wand wasn't broken by accident." Neville nodded. "It was left near the greenhouses. Not snapped, just quietly cracked, as if it had come undone." He looked down at the wand in the box. "Someone tried to undo it." Ollivander's eyes glinted. "That," he said softly, "is the riddle we now face." And so, on a soft-lit day, with nothing but quiet voices and curious hearts, the mystery began. Not with alarms or danger, but with listening. Listening to what the wand could no longer say, and what it had been holding all along. The sunlight that had streamed through Ollivander's windows earlier in the day had faded, replaced now by the slow turning of evening shadows. Outside, Diagon Alley had grown still and golden, the usual footfalls of witches and wizards replaced by the rustle of distant paper and the occasional hoot of an owl beginning its nightly rounds. But inside Ollivander's, the silence took on a different tone, more expectant now, as if the walls were listening too. The broken wand lay quietly in its velvet-lined box on the counter. Luna, ever gentle in her ways, had taken a seat near the back of the shop, her knees pulled to her chest on an old wooden bench that had been carved with swirling stars long ago. She was sketching something absent-mindedly on a spare bit of parchment, not quite a map, not quite a spell, just the kind of drawing that happened when her mind wandered into places unseen. Neville stood near the front, sipping tea Ollivander had brewed, a soft floral blend that smelled faintly of lavender and thyme. He wasn't entirely sure why he'd come, not really. He'd just found the wand near the greenhouse that morning, broken but humming faintly, and something about it had called him here. "I suppose I thought," he started, breaking the quiet. "That wands don't just break themselves," finished Luna, not looking up. Ollivander stepped forward from behind a curtain at the rear of the shop, cradling an old wand in both hands, not the broken one, but one from a shelf so high it had gathered dust. "This," he said, placing it gently beside the fractured wand, "was crafted with the same core." A feather from the same phoenix. Neville blinked. "Fox?" "No," Ollivander said. "Another, lesser known, one who vanished shortly after giving these feathers. Her name was Solène, and her magic was different, wilder, unpredictable at times." Luna leaned forward, curiosity sharpening her gaze. You think the connection is what made this wand unravel? I think, Ollivander said slowly, someone tried to sever that connection. Not break the wand through force, but through reversal. Undoing the bond between wood and core, Neville felt a shiver run up his arms. Is that even possible? No, Ollivander whispered, not unless. But he didn't finish the thought. Instead, he reached for the broken wand and lifted it with reverence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then softly, faintly, a sound, not quite music, not quite a whisper, a sort of echo. It curled through the air like smoke, a fragile, haunting note that made the very shelves of wand boxes seem to still. The sound brushed against Neville's ears, tugged gently at Luna's chest, and made Ollivander close his eyes in something like mourning. It's singing, Luna breathed. No, Ollivander replied. It's calling. And just as he said it, the wand trembled in his hand. The magic that had once coursed through it had not died with the fracture. It had moved, and in that moment, it surged, not forward, but backward, like a ripple collapsing in on itself. A flash pulsed through the shop, not blinding, not loud, but deep, felt rather than seen. Neville dropped his teacup, and when the light faded, the wand was gone. Ollivander stood frozen, his hands empty. Luna slowly lowered her legs and stood up. It didn't vanish, she said softly. It went home. Neville frowned. Home? Where it was born, she whispered. Where the feather first met the wood, where the bond began. There was a long pause. Then Ollivander, with surprising energy, turned toward a drawer and pulled out an ancient, curling parchment. The grove, he murmured, the Wandwood Grove. It was grown in near the edge of the Forbidden Forest, decades ago, before Hogwarts placed enchantments to shield it from curious students. Luna's eyes lit with distant memory. I've seen the grove. Only once, on a moonlit night, just past the greenhouses. The trees there hum. Neville nodded slowly. We can go. You must go, Ollivander said, eyes shining with quiet urgency. Something has awakened, and whatever tried to undo the wand's magic may not be done trying. Neville bent to retrieve his wand from his boot, a sturdy oak with a griffin whisker core, and Luna tucked her sketch into the folds of her robe. Outside, the last light of day melted into blue dusk. As they stepped out of the shop, Neville turned back. Ollivander, he asked, why now? Why this wand? The wandmaker's face was unreadable. Because some magic, he said softly, refuses to stay buried. And with that, the door closed behind them, the bell giving one final chime as they disappeared into the night. Unbeknownst to them, in the depths of the forest, a tree had begun to glow, not brightly, but steadily. The same hum Luna had once heard began to rise in the roots of the grove, soft, slow, and strange. A hum that held memory, a hum that echoed through the leaves, whispering a question the wind could not carry. Who tried to undo what was never meant to be undone, and why? Did they leave behind only silence? The Forbidden Forest had never felt so quiet. Though twilight was fading into true night, the air around Neville and Luna felt oddly gentle, hushed, almost reverent. Crickets sang in the distance, and the soft rustling of the leaves above seemed to welcome them, as if the forest had been expecting their arrival. They had slipped through the outer charms of the Hogwarts grounds, guided not by directions, but by something much older, a memory that lingered in the soil and trees. Luna's sketch, oddly, had begun to glow at the edges as they walked, the faint silver of the ink lighting up little trails on the parchment, pointing them forward. Neville held his wand close, not out of fear, but for comfort. Oak had always made him feel steady, as if the wood itself remembered the courage he didn't always feel. "This way," Luna whispered, brushing aside a curtain of hanging moss. They stepped into a clearing ringed with silver-barked trees, tall, slender, and perfectly still. The hum was back, faint, like the vibration of a harp string long after it's been plucked. In the center of the grove lay something unexpected, not the broken wand, but a circle of fallen leaves, arranged in a perfect spiral, untouched by wind or creature. At the heart of the spiral, half buried in the moss, was a smooth, round stone. Luna bent down and gently picked it up. It was warm, and then it blinked. Neville stepped back instinctively. The stone blinked again, not with eyes, but with light. A soft pulse, like a heartbeat. Then it shimmered, and suddenly they were no longer in the grove. They were standing in Ollivander's workshop. But it wasn't now. It was then. The air shimmered with memory. Everything looked newer, the wood polished, the windows brighter. A younger Garrick Ollivander stood behind the counter, examining a wand freshly bound with gold thread at the handle. On the table lay the same wand Neville had found, unbroken, pristine. A cloaked figure stood across from him. The figure's voice was calm but cold. "You said it was made with Solen's feather." Ollivander nodded. "A rare one. She only gifted 3. The cloaked figure tilted their head. "And the others?" "One was lost in a duel. The second—" He hesitated. "It was taken. Vanished. This is the last." The figure placed a pouch of gold on the counter. "Then I'll take it." Ollivander hesitated again. "I must warn you, this wand is loyal. Too loyal, perhaps. It bonds quickly and deeply, if you intend to use it only briefly." The figure cut him off. "I know what I need." Then the memory shimmered, like ink in water, and dissolved. Neville and Luna found themselves back in the grove. The stone in Luna's hand was dark again. Neville exhaled slowly. "What was that?" "A memory," she whispered. "Not a stored one. A living one. The grove remembers." Neville looked around. "But why show us?" Luna's eyes softened. "Because we're listening." Suddenly, the wind shifted. A soft rustle stirred the swirl of leaves, and then, rising slowly from the center of the spiral, the wand reappeared, whole, unbroken, but changed. Its wood shimmered with veins of silver light, and its core, somehow visible in brief flashes, pulsed like the stone had, alive, aware. Neville stepped forward cautiously. "Is it safe?" Luna didn't answer. Instead, the wand hovered just a few inches above the ground and turned to point toward the northern edge of the grove, where the trees grew denser. "Another path," Luna said quietly. "It wants us to follow." So they did. The forest deepened as they walked, but it didn't darken. Strange blue moss lit their steps, and tiny silver motes floated lazily through the air like fireflies made of memory. And then another sound, a soft crack, not threatening, not loud, just enough to make them stop. From behind a low-hanging branch stepped a small, cloaked figure, not tall, not threatening, a girl, maybe 12, pale with bright hazel eyes that shimmered strangely in the moonlight. She held a wand in her hand, but it looked broken, snapped in two, but mended with golden thread, as if someone had tried to stitch it together. "Don't come any closer," she said softly. Neville froze. "We're not here to hurt you." "I know," the girl whispered, "but I can't let you take it." Luna's voice was like a breeze. "Take what?" "The song," the girl said. "The song in the wood. It doesn't belong to anyone anymore, not even to Ollivander, not even to the Phoenix. It belongs to the forest now." Neville took a step forward. "Did you try to break it?" The girl looked down. "I tried to separate it. I thought if I could undo the bond, I could use the core to repair mine. My wand was made wrong. It never listened. It never chose me." Luna stepped gently beside Neville. "So you borrowed someone else's?" The girl nodded, but it wouldn't let go. It sang so loudly I couldn't sleep. Neville looked toward the hovering wand, still pulsing faintly behind them. "It didn't hate you," he said gently. "It was trying to remind you." The girl's eyes welled with tears. "Of what?" "That you're not supposed to steal someone else's magic. You're supposed to find your own." A long pause. Then Luna did something strange. She reached into her robe and pulled out the memory stone and held it toward the girl. The girl hesitated, then took it. The stone blinked once, and then, slowly, softly, her broken wand, stitched with golden thread, began to hum. It wasn't loud, but it was hers. The grove accepted it. The wand mended itself, not through force, but through forgiveness. The gold thread melted into the wood, and the girl, wide-eyed, whispered a thank you. The forest carried away like a breeze. Neville turned to Luna. "We've solved the riddle," he said. "No," Luna replied softly. "We've healed it." And with that, the silver-barked trees bent slightly, as if bowing. The motes of light drifted higher. The hum faded, and the forest exhaled. Back beneath the shelter of the trees, the quiet returned. Not the kind of silence that frightens or warns, but a peaceful one, like a long exhale after tears, like soft parchment being unrolled for the next chapter to begin. Luna walked slowly beside Neville, the forest trail ahead shimmering faintly with stardust-colored moss. Behind them, the girl had returned to the shadows, her presence lingering only in the hush and a strange, peaceful hum now carried in the leaves. They said nothing for a long while, and yet it didn't feel like silence at all. The trees seemed to whisper gently as they passed. The stars overhead peeked through the high branches like tiny, curious watchers. The broken wand, no longer broken, rested in Neville's hand now. It no longer hummed or shimmered, but it was warm, as if it recognized its role in the tale was not quite finished. "Do you think," Neville said at last, his voice soft, "it remembers?" Luna turned her head, dreamy eyes catching the moonlight. "The wand?" He nodded. It remembers more than it ever told, she whispered, as if revealing a secret to the night. As they continued walking, the terrain shifted, not sharply, but gradually. The moss gave way to smooth stone, and the forest thinned into old, crumbling walls, barely held together by time and ivy. They had arrived at the forgotten edge of Hogwarts, a ruin that even the castle's map had stopped recognizing. It was once a watchtower, long abandoned, swallowed by the forest over centuries. An arched door still stood, crooked and half-covered in vines. Neville hesitated. It feels like it's waiting for us. Luna simply placed her hand on the wood. It opened. Inside was shadow, not darkness, the kind of shadow that knew how to keep memories safe. Dust floated like fine mist in the air, lit by beams of moonlight that filtered through shattered stone windows. And on the far wall, there it was. The carving. Neville stepped closer. It wasn't grand or even obvious, just a simple mark etched deep into the stone, almost as if someone had scratched it with the edge of a wand. It was the same spiral as the forest leaves, only now it was surrounded by names: Garrick Ollivander, Solène, Heward, Thea. Wandmakers, Neville whispered. Luna nodded. All of them. This place. It was once a quiet hall where wandmakers came to listen. To the wood? He asked. To the echoes, she answered softly. A cool draft swept through the tower, and with it came a faint shimmer in the air, a ripple like heat over stone. And then, a shape. Not quite a ghost, not quite a memory. A woman, slender, ageless, with hair like threads of starlight, and robes that shimmered with the deep browns of bark and the gentle greens of lichen. Her face was kind, gentle. She looked at the wand in Neville's hand. "Returned at last," she said, though her voice was not sound, more like a melody remembered in a dream. Neville froze. "Are you?" "I am the guardian of what wandmakers once honored," she said. "The bond. The secret harmony that exists between wood, core, and wizard. You have stepped into a story older than the castle itself." The spiral behind her shimmered faintly. "It was made," she continued, "as a memory, a promise between wandmakers, that no wand once bonded would ever be forcibly undone. To do so is to tear a thread in the fabric of trust between magic and soul." Neville felt the wand pulse again, once, gently. "We didn't mean to intrude," he said softly. "You were meant to arrive," the woman answered, "because something is stirring." She raised her hand. The air shimmered again, and they saw it. A flash, just a glimpse, of a room deep beneath Ollivander's shop. A vault, quiet, forgotten. Inside were boxes, thousands, dusty, sealed, humming softly, and one box, cracked open, its wand missing. "The one the girl tried to take?" Neville asked. "No," the guardian said. "Another." The vision faded. Luna spoke now, her voice the gentlest whisper. "Is someone trying to unmake more bonds?" The woman nodded once. "Yes, they seek to undo what should never be unraveled, and they will break more than wands if they succeed." Neville felt a quiet tension in his chest. Not fear exactly, but something unresolved. The woman stepped forward, her image glowing faintly in the moonlight. "But you are not here to fight. You are here to listen, to carry the warning back, to protect what binds wand to wizard. She touched the wand in Neville's hand, and in that moment, he saw not spells or power, but people. He saw a young Ollivander choosing wood with reverence, a phoenix offering a feather freely, a child touching a wand for the first time, eyes full of hope. And then he saw shadow, not violence, not rage, but coldness, a figure in gray, faceless and deliberate, trying wand after wand, not for harmony, but control, for power. Then the vision faded. The guardian's voice returned. This broken wand, now healed, carries the memory. The next time it meets the one who tries to undo its nature, it will know. Neville closed his eyes, letting the warmth of that thought settle into him. The guardian stepped back into the shimmer, becoming part of the spiral again. The tower's light dimmed, only the spiral remained, glowing gently. Luna placed a hand on the stone. "Thank you," she whispered, and then the air stilled. It was time to return. Slender, ageless, with hair like threads of starlight, and robes that shimmered with the deep browns of bark and the gentle greens of lichen. Her face was kind, gentle. She looked at the wand in Neville's hand. "Returned at last," she said, though her voice was not sound, more like a melody remembered in a dream. Neville froze. "Are you?" "I am the guardian of what wand makers once honored," she said. "The bond. The secret harmony that exists between wood, core, and wizard. You have stepped into a story older than the castle itself." The spiral behind her shimmered faintly. "It was made," she continued, "as a memory, a promise between wand makers, that no wand once bonded would ever be forcibly undone. To do so is to tear a thread in the fabric of trust between magic and soul." Neville felt the wand pulse again, once, gently. "We didn't mean to intrude," he said softly. "You were meant to arrive," the woman answered, "because something is stirring." She raised her hand. The air shimmered again, and they saw it. A flash, just a glimpse, of a room deep beneath Ollivander's shop. A vault, quiet, forgotten. Inside were boxes, thousands, dusty, sealed, humming softly, and one box, cracked open, its wand missing. "The one the girl tried to take?" Neville asked. "No," the guardian said. "Another." The vision faded. Luna spoke now, her voice the gentlest whisper. "Is someone trying to unmake more bonds?" The woman nodded once. "Yes, they seek to undo what should never be unraveled, and they will break more than wands if they succeed." Neville felt a quiet tension in his chest. Not fear exactly, but something unresolved. The woman stepped forward, her image glowing faintly in the moonlight. "But you are not here to fight. You are here to listen, to carry the warning back, to protect what binds wand to wizard." She touched the wand in Neville's hand, and in that moment, he saw not spells or power, but people. He saw a young Ollivander choosing wood with reverence, a phoenix offering a feather freely, a child touching a wand for the first time, eyes full of hope. And then he saw shadow, not violence, not rage, but coldness, a figure in gray, faceless and deliberate, trying wand after wand, not for harmony, but control, for power. Then the vision faded. The guardian's voice returned. "This broken wand, now healed, carries the memory. The next time it meets the one who tries to undo its nature, It will know. Neville closed his eyes, letting the warmth of that thought settle into him. The Guardian stepped back into the shimmer, becoming part of the spiral again. The tower's light dimmed, only the spiral remained, glowing gently. Luna placed a hand on the stone. "Thank you," she whispered, and then the air stilled. It was time to return. Back at Hogwarts, the world had not changed. Candles still flickered in the common rooms. Portraits slept in their frames. The great hall lay quiet, the stars twinkling on its enchanted ceiling. But Neville and Luna had changed, not in the way one sees in a mirror, but in the way leaves remember a season, or a wand remembers a hand that held it with love. In the room of requirement, which had appeared this night as a quiet study filled with old parchment and soft chairs, Neville placed the wand, the once broken wand, into a velvet-lined box. He didn't lock it. He didn't need to. It was whole again. Luna sat beside him, sketching softly, her quill whispering across the page. "What happens next?" he asked. She smiled. "We wait, we listen." Neville leaned back, letting the hum of Hogwarts wrap around him. The kind of hum that only comes at night, when mysteries breathe beneath floorboards and the castle remembers the steps of those who came before. He looked at the box again. Somewhere out there, someone was still trying to undo the song, but here, the echo had been restored, and the forest, the tower, and the Guardian would remember, so would they. The next morning arrived like a soft exhale across the castle grounds. Sunlight filtered gently through mist that clung to the hills like an old friend reluctant to leave. Hogwarts was beginning to stir, but in the quieter corners of the school, time still moved slowly, just as it should on days when the mind is full of wonder and the heart carries something newly uncovered. Neville had hardly spoken a word over breakfast. His toast remained untouched, and he absently stirred his tea, the clinking spoon sounding faint in the great hall's calm morning lull. Luna, across the table, was reading upside down, a habit no one questioned anymore. Her book today was titled Whispers from Wandwood, Forgotten Notes from 17th Century Wandlore. She had borrowed it from the restricted section, with permission, of course, or something very close to it. Neville's eyes wandered toward the far end of the hall, where Professor Flitwick sat sipping tea with a particularly thoughtful expression. Nearby, Professor McGonagall was folding a letter with exacting precision. The ordinary rhythm of the castle was comforting, but something quiet tugged beneath it all, like a song waiting to be heard again. After breakfast, Neville and Luna didn't speak of where to go. They didn't need to. Their feet simply knew the way. They found themselves once again in the room of requirement. This time, it looked a little different. Not the study from last night, but something more open, more exploratory. A round room with wooden bookshelves carved into the walls, no corners, and warm beams of light cascading from an unseen source above. Soft rugs lined the floor like scattered leaves, and parchment floated gently in midair, waiting to be read. "I think it wants us to learn," Luna said, spinning slowly in the center. Neville stepped toward the shelves. They weren't like the library's books, not titled in gold or labeled in ink, but rather imprinted with symbols, faint runes that shimmered when touched. One book opened without warning. A page turned itself. Inside was a diagram. A wand split in two, not broken, but purposefully opened. Each component glowed faintly. Wood, core, bond. Neville leaned in. What is this place? Luna looked at him, her gaze unusually focused. I think this is a place only those who respect magic deeply can enter. A vault of intention, not just knowledge. Neville touched the glowing core on the page. Instantly, an image bloomed in the air beside them. It was the inside of Ollivander's shop, quiet, shadowed, but a new figure was there. A person in a cloak, gently opening boxes, not to steal, but to test, to question, to undo. Each time the figure picked up a wand, it shivered, not with fear, but with rejection. The figure's hand trembled as they placed each wand back. Then, finally, they found the broken wand. The image froze. Neville reached out, his hand hovering just above the projection. They were trying to find something, not just any wand. That one, Luna nodded, and when it resisted, they tried to break the bond, the oldest rule of Wandlore. But why? Neville whispered. A page turned again, and this time the words formed in the air above them. When a wand's bond is undone, the magic it holds returns to its purest state, raw, untamed, dangerous. Some seek that power, others seek to silence it. The room went still. Luna sat on one of the soft rugs, cross-legged. So whoever it was, wasn't trying to use the wand. They wanted to strip it. Neville lowered his voice. To erase the memory? Luna looked thoughtful. Or to harvest something ancient. They were quiet for a while, just thinking, not rushing. Then the room shifted again. The shelves melted away into soft stone, and the air turned slightly cooler. Now, they were inside what looked like an old classroom, but not one either of them had ever used. In the center was a long table, made of willow wood, covered in scattered wand cores, phoenix feather, unicorn hair, even one tiny bundle of thestral tail. On the wall was a question. What do you choose to remember? Neville looked at Luna, puzzled, but Luna walked straight to the table, picked up a phoenix feather, and placed it on a piece of old parchment. As she did, the room shimmered slightly. The feather glowed and left behind an image of a girl laughing as her wand sparked for the first time. It's not just about the wand, Luna said. It's about the story each wand carries. Neville understood now. He moved to the table. He picked up a single strand of unicorn hair. It was silver white and trembled in his fingers, almost like a heartbeat. He placed it on the parchment. This time, the image was of a small boy, somewhere far from here, holding a wand not quite his yet, and a grandfather gently guiding his hand. These aren't tools, Neville whispered. They're living memories. And suddenly, he understood the deeper meaning of the question on the wall. What do you choose to remember? The act of trying to unmake a wand wasn't just breaking magic. It was erasing people, their hopes, their stories, their moments of wonder. The mysterious figure hadn't just been chasing power. They'd been chasing erasure, and that was something far more dangerous. I want to protect the stories, Neville said quietly, his voice steady now, not just the wands. The room shimmered one final time. a door appeared. Behind it, nothing frightening, only Ollivander's shop again. Peaceful, still, but this time the air felt different, as if the shop knew they'd chosen. Neville stepped through first, Luna behind him, and as they stood inside the familiar space, every wand box glowed, just once, like a heartbeat, a quiet chorus of acceptance. The choice had been made, not of action, but of remembrance. The wooden floor of Ollivander's shop creaked softly beneath Neville's feet. The glow of the wand boxes had faded to a faint shimmer, like stars dissolving into morning light. Luna moved beside him, her eyes scanning the rows of carefully stacked boxes, each one holding a secret history, a moment of magic waiting to be remembered. Ollivander himself stood behind the counter, not the image from before, but the real man now, older than Neville remembered, yet somehow timeless. His silver-white hair curled like drifting smoke around his temples, and his eyes, always so alert, looked tired but kind. "I've been expecting you," he said, voice quiet as parchment turning. "The room of requirement rarely sends people my way without reason." Neville stepped forward, hesitant but certain. "We saw what happened. The broken wand, the one someone tried to unbind Ollivander's fingers, curled slightly on the counter, the only sign of tension. You must understand," he said, "Wandlore is older than Hogwarts, older than the Ministry, older than the names most wizards bother to remember, and within her every wand there lives not just magic, but memory. Undoing that is—" He paused, as if searching for the gentlest word, "violence of the most quiet kind." He reached beneath the counter and brought forth a slender wand, split neatly down the middle. Its wood was strange, neither ash nor holly, and the exposed core shimmered like moonlight on water. "This," he said, "was once the wand of Elspeth Folly." Luna gasped faintly. The healer from the journals? Neville had read the name before too, a witch known not just for her work with magical illnesses, but for recording spells that could soothe pain without dulling the mind. A gentle revolutionary, long vanished from public knowledge. "She disappeared," Neville said slowly. "No one ever found her." Ollivander nodded, because her wand was unbound, not destroyed, not broken, but unraveled. He lifted the wand and held it between thumb and forefinger. Elspeth's wand resisted the attempt. Most do, but in that resistance, something happened. A flash of the past. A magical echo strong enough to linger. Neville's mind turned to the moment in the room of requirement, the image of the cloaked figure, searching, rejecting, reaching again. "Who was it?" Neville asked. "Who tried to erase her?" Ollivander set the wand down gently and looked up, his expression unreadable. "I do not know their name," he said softly, "but I know their goal. They wanted to remove all traces of her work, her healing spells, her writings, even the knowledge of her existence, as if kindness was too dangerous to remember." There was a pause. A soft breeze stirred the dust in the corners of the shop. Then Luna, her voice barely above a whisper, said, "But the wand wouldn't let her be forgotten." And that was the truth, the soft heart of it all. Magic remembered, even when people tried not to, even when people wanted to forget. The echo, Neville said. "That's what brought us here." "Yes," Ollivander agreed, "a memory stitched into the wand's fibers. When you touched it in the room, it reached out, and you listened." Neville swallowed. "So, what happens now? What do we do with this?" Ollivander's smile was faint, but deep. "That is not a question of action, Mr. Longbottom. That is a question of intention." He turned, opened a small drawer behind him, and retrieved a small velvet pouch. Inside it were 3 wand cores, delicate, shimmering, humming softly. Elspeth's wand will never function again, but its pieces still hold memory. If placed into new wands, those echoes may guide the next witch or wizard who touches them. Not with force, not with power, but with feeling. With a thread of kindness, Luna leaned closer. "So you're planting her memory?" "In a way," Ollivander said, "like sowing seeds of old starlight into the future." Neville felt something settle in his chest, something warm and quiet and steady, a sense of purpose that didn't shout, didn't demand, but waited. And then, in a voice that surprised even him, he asked, "May I be one of the ones to carry her memory?" Ollivander didn't respond right away. Instead, he studied Neville, the quiet strength in his posture, the weariness behind his eyes, the earthbound determination that never needed a stage to grow. "You already are," the wandmaker said at last. "You always were." He handed Neville one of the cores, phoenix feather, tinged with the faintest trace of silver. "This was Elspeth's," Ollivander murmured. "Let it remind you that healing is not always about mending bones. Sometimes it's about remembering where the break began." Neville took it with both hands, cradling it like something living. Then Luna stepped forward. "And what about the one who tried to erase her?" Ollivander looked thoughtful. "Their story will come to light in time. But for now, what matters is that you followed a whisper in the dark and chose not to silence it." Neville looked down at the phoenix feather again. No lightning flashes, no duels, no prophecy fulfilled, just a choice to remember what someone else tried to bury. And that, quietly, gently, was more powerful than any spell he had ever known. Outside Ollivander's shop, the hush of Diagon Alley had returned. The fog that had earlier curled along the cobblestones now glowed with the soft light of evening lanterns, and shop windows shimmered with sleepy candlelight. The sky had turned a gentle lavender, like dusk resting its head on the world. Neville and Luna stepped through the doorway together, the wooden door swinging silently shut behind them with a satisfying click. In Neville's pocket, the velvet pouch cradled the phoenix feather, once the core of Elspeth Folly's wand, now a quiet beacon of memory and meaning. They didn't speak for a while, choosing instead to walk slowly through the alley. A faint wind stirred the hanging signs above Flourish and Blots, tugged at the corner of the Daily Prophet stand, and carried with it the scent of fresh ink and old parchment. Luna's voice, when it came, was soft as a page turning. "Do you think she knows?" Neville glanced over. "Elspeth?" She nodded. "Wherever she is." "Do you think she felt that we remembered?" He looked up at the sky, now a rich velvet blue, with the first stars twinkling above the crooked chimneys. "I think she does," he said slowly. Magic like hers doesn't vanish. It waits. It finds a way to bloom again. And maybe that's all we were meant to do. Let it bloom. They reached the end of the alley, where a narrow lane curved off toward the leaky cauldron. The stone here was cool underfoot, the kind of quiet spot where even shadows seemed to pause. Luna paused there, lifting her eyes to the stars. I used to think broken wands meant broken people, but maybe they just hold more stories. Neville smiled, his gaze tracing the outline of her profile against the night. Maybe that's why some magic echoes louder than others. They sat for a while on the edge of a low stone wall, not needing words. Around them, the world breathed softly, the hum of the city quieting down, the flickering lights from upper windows growing still, and the gentle rustle of magic settling into sleep. Neville thought of his students at Hogwarts, of all the young witches and wizards learning not just spells, but the weight of what magic could carry. Maybe one day, one of them would hold a wand with a piece of Elspeth's feather inside, and feel something they couldn't explain. A tug, a kindness, a choice. And they would listen just as he and Luna had. The pouch in his pocket warmed slightly, as if the feather inside had heard his thoughts. Not hot, just enough to remind him it was still there. Still awake. The mystery was not fully solved. There were still names left unspoken, motives buried deep in forgotten archives, but that no longer felt urgent. The most important part had already been done. The memory had been saved. The spell meant to silence had been gently unraveled, not with vengeance, but with care. As Luna leaned her head softly against his shoulder, Neville let out a long, peaceful breath. "I think it's time to go home," he whispered. And the night, with all its echoes and starlight, seemed to agree. They stood together, one last glance at the lantern-lit alley, and then turned toward the soft glow of the leaky cauldron. Each step felt lighter, each breath slower. The world, for a moment, was exactly as it should be, and somewhere, in the oldest magic of wands and memory, Elspeth Folly's name was no longer forgotten. It lived on, quietly, lovingly, waiting now to be remembered again. So now, dear dreamer, as the stars quietly twinkle over Diagon Alley and the soft hush of the magical world settles once more, take a gentle breath in and let it out slowly. You have wandered through memories and mystery, followed gentle steps through wandwood and whispering feathers, and stood beside those who listened not just with ears, but with their hearts. In the end, it wasn't power that solved the riddle of the broken wand, not strength or spells or clever words. It was compassion, patience, the quiet courage to care. And that is a magic far older than any charm ever taught at Hogwarts. The wand may have splintered, the core may have faded, but the story, the story lived on. And in telling it, in remembering what once was meant to be lost, Neville and Luna helped it bloom again like a soft light in the dark. Just like your own story, unfolding with each breath, each dream, each choice to listen to the gentle things that often go unnoticed. Tonight, may you feel wrapped in that same warmth, the comfort of knowing that even broken things hold beauty, and that even forgotten songs can be heard again if someone is willing to listen. Let the soft hum of magic cradle your thoughts now. Let the candlelight dim behind your eyes. Let the staircases of Hogwarts carry you upward, step by step, to dreams where portraits smile and corridors stretch on forever. You are safe here. You are welcome here. And as the night deepens and the echoes fade into slumber, may you carry this quiet tale with you, not as a puzzle to be solved, but as a promise that the kind of magic which lingers in love, in memory, in the choosing of kindness, that is the magic that never breaks. So close your eyes, dear listener, let the feather drift gently down, let the wand sleep, unbroken at last, and may your dreams be filled with wonder. Good night, and may the magic find you.